Thanks for joining me today for another episode of Beyond the Table. I sure hope that you're enjoying the content and the conversations that we're bringing to this podcast. And if you're enjoying it, do me a favor, like it, share it, subscribe, and we'll continue to do our best to just bring some helps to you. I was recently asked a question on the subject of finding success, or really, how do I find success in personal and spiritual growth? And I found the question to be a very interesting question, a complex question that I don't know if I can fully answer in this one episode, but I'll do my best to give some bare bones about it. One, you have to define success for you. I think success is different for every individual, and you have to define that. What is going to be success for you? You know, as a pastor, as a leader, I have told people my greatest success thus far in my life has been that my wife and my children still love God, love the church, and love me. And so for me, that is a huge, huge measure of success. And so you have to define success first and foremost for you. And so to delve into the subject matter a little bit deeper, though, how do you find success in personal and spiritual growth? I think that there's a few staples that I could bring to the table. One is you have to value people. And when I say value people, you have to value the people around you, but you also have to value people enough that they can speak into your life. I was listening to a conversation, or overhearing a conversation about one of my favorite verses in the Bible. It's 1 Corinthians 4:15. And there it says, Paul is instructing the church at Corinth, and he says, you have 10,000 instructors, but you don't have many fathers. And the thing about that is we all need mentors. And mentors is what I would say is a father in your life, a voice in your life. And Paul is saying you can have 10,000 teachers, but who's the one who can come in and put their hands on your life, encourage you, and you can have a face-to-face relationship with them? In other words, somebody that you watch frequently on television, they can't be your mentor. They're not. You're not going to give them open access into your life to really help you grow personally and help you grow spiritually. Over my life, I've had people say, hey, Pastor, I want you to be a mentor to me, or I want you to be a spiritual father in my life. And they do until I get close enough to start addressing issues. And when you start addressing issues, you really find out if they meant what they said, or if they really just wanted you to be a teacher and they never wanted to deal with their issues. So for me to grow personally, for me to grow spiritually, I had to value some people to let them close and allow them to speak into my life and allow them to correct me and really be a father in life to me, to put hands on me. Paul says that of Timothy. He tells young Timothy, he said, listen, don't neglect the gift that you received by the laying on of my hands. And so there's some relationships, some iron sharpening iron, some impartation that takes place when we allow somebody close enough to deal with our stuff and to deal with our issues. And you're only going to grow so much personally and spiritually when all you do is have teachers around you. But whenever you have some trusted voices, and I would tell you probably need about 10, and that's, like I said, this is a whole nother episode, who really can come in and speak to your life. One mentor is not the solution. You need to have mentors in several different areas of your life who are strong, and allow them to speak into your life. And so that's huge. But also, if you're going to grow and have success in personal and spiritual growth, one, you got to have hunger for it. And so that means you're going to have to be a learner, a reader, a listener. And when I say a listener, that's exactly what I mean, is that you're going to have to learn to listen, 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 listen. I believe more is caught than taught, but you can only catch it if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to lean into conversations. Um, Whenever you're speaking, you're letting everyone know what you know. But when you're listening, that's when you're learning the most. And so often we only listen for our next turn to speak. And I think it hinders our success. I think it hinders our growth. And so if you desire to grow spiritually, if you desire to grow personally, man, you've got to lean into the listening aspect and then ask questions. I think learning comes from asking more questions than giving answers. And so, asking the right questions of people, asking the right questions of a book that you're reading, asking right questions when you're in a listening situation, instead of just giving information. And then read, be strategic in your reading. I've always heard leaders are readers. I also think if you're going to grow, you got to read. And nowadays it's so easy. They have audible books, they have books on YouTube, they got cliff notes that you can go out and just read. That's like a whole book, and they'll put it in 7 pages, and you're just getting the highlights of that book. And so there's a lot of ways to get resources in and read. But listen, when you read, it cannot be simply to consume data. You've got to figure a way to read a book and then implement the pieces of that book that are going to help your success and your growth. My concern with our current culture is that we are data junkies. We're always taking information in, but we're not applying that information. It's not bringing success. And so information unapplied will not lead you to success. You've got to get information in, then you have to apply that information so that can bring the success that you're wanting, whether it's spiritually or whether it is in your personal life and your personal growth. Um, Another thing that I do a lot is reframe. And when I say reframe, I look at situations, I look at circumstances, I look at life and say, how can this be reframed so that I get the greatest value out of it and I can add the greatest value to it? I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with someone about just some unmet expectations. And so what I began to do is, because I can do a couple of things. When I get frustrated, I can get aggravated, or I can begin to reframe it and ask some questions. And so in the context of the unmet expectations, I just asked, I said, hey, did, did I not explain this clearly? Where did I fail in explaining the outcome, the need, the process? Help me, because I want you to be a success. I think when we look at success, it can't just be about our success. It's got to be about those around us succeeding as well. And so as I began to reframe that, there were a couple of things where I could have clarified expectation. I could have been clarified timelines, deadlines. But then there was some ownership in that conversation to say, you did well there. I just let this and this and this get ahead of the process, and now I'm running behind. And so it wasn't a me against you, you against me. We walked away with a win-win situation. You can't always do that, but if you try to reframe situations, circumstances, conversations, even arguments, if you can reframe it, it would allow you to have personal and spiritual growth and success. I think too often we're just trying to be right. And I think when you're always trying to be right, you're going to stop being successful, because you're going to stop taking people on the journey with you. John Maxwell says, if you make it to the top of the mountain and you're all by yourself, you did the climb wrong. You're supposed to take people with you. It should not be lonely at the top. You should be taking some people with you on the journey. But you can't do that unless you reframe what growth is going to be and what success is going to be in that journey with other people. And so for me, that's huge. And then I would say the last thing about success and personal and spiritual growth is understanding the narrative of where you are in life. Success and spiritual growth in my 20s looks a lot different in my 50s. Um, and that's okay. The journey has taught me a lot. There's some things in my 20s I was just dead set on that I believed that I knew and I knew I was right. That now in my 50s, I don't even care. And so I was having arguments that didn't matter. I was having conversations that didn't matter. And so I think part of if you're going to have success, if you're going to have growth, if you're going to have um, just development in your life, you've got to understand that the narrative of life changes as you get older. And that's huge. That is huge, huge, huge. And so, I would tell people back in the day, especially in my late 20s and early 30s, I was reading a book a week at least. And so I was reading anywhere between 52 to 65 books a year, just consuming material, consuming material. And so then it got to a place where I'm like, you know what? It's not about how many books I'm going to read. It's about the books that are going to make an imprint on my life. And so I began to get a little more um, specific in the kind of books I wanted to read. And so that became huge for me. And so, anyway, those are just a few things I think would help. Those are a few things that would um, encourage you in your journey for success and your journey for personal and spiritual growth. And so, hope this helps you a little bit. And feel free to leave a comment, maybe a question, and we can get some more information on it. And so, take some of this, take it beyond the table, apply it to your life, see how it works out for you. Have a great day.